Hello everyone. This is part 6 of the presentation on the topic peer-to-peer network. With this we will conclude this topic, and here we are going to see the case study, that is BitTorrent. We already seen how the Nutella network is working, and also an overview of that structured P2P. And now we are going to see an somewhat different architecture that is used in BitTorrent network. So let's begin. So BitTorrent is a P2P file sharing protocol devised by Bram Cohen. It is based on replicating the file, or rather replicating segments of the file called pieces. So this is the main idea here. We are not going to replicate the entire file. Instead, pieces will be replicated, and pieces by pieces will be downloading and merging together. Any particular piece can usually be downloaded from multiple peers due to this replication, even if only one peer has an entire file. Maybe one of the peer will be having the entire file, but the pieces will be having in multiple file as it is getting replicated. The primary benefit of BitTorrent replication is, of course, avoiding bottleneck of having only one source for the file. The beauty of BitTorrent is that the replication is a natural side effect of the downloading process. That means as soon as a peer downloads a particular piece, this peer becomes another source for the piece. Okay, so initially you will not be, you are trying to locate a particular resource, and you find out a particular part, segment of the file which you are trying to find out, or a piece is available in a node. From that you are downloading it, and immediately when you downloaded it, you become a source for the file, and from other machines can now contact you, and from you they will be getting it. So replication is getting a natural side effect of the downloading process. So the more peers downloading pieces of the file, the more piece replication occurs and distributing the load proportionally. So whoever is downloading, they become the source of the information further. And also it is up to the machine. If they want, they can leave also, but we are encouraging that machine to stay for long time for replicating as well as making the service to others. The pieces are downloaded in random order, and we are not following a specific order. Randomly we are downloading the pieces to avoid the situation where the peers find themselves lacking the same set of pieces. So the swarm life cycle in a typical BitTorrent. So first see what is a swarm. Each file is shared via its own independent BitTorrent network called a swarm. So whenever you are downloading a file, as I already told you, piece by piece you are downloading. So together that process, in that downloading process, who are all the network involved, they together form a typical swarm. So with the definition we feel like the swarm is part of a single file sharing, but at the same time a swarm could potentially share a set of files also, but here we are discussing a single file sharing and the swarm underlying network for that. The life cycle of a typical swarm network is as follows. The swarm starts at a singleton peer with a complete copy of the file. That means initially when you are trying to download a file, there will be the one who is having the entire file, and we are starting with that machine. So assume that there is no piece of the file available in any other network, and this is the initial scenario. Now a node that wants to download a file, he want to get the file, it joins a swarm and it becomes the second member. Who is the first member? The one who is containing the entire file, and begins downloading a piece of the file from the original peer. Now in doing so, it becomes another source for the piece it has downloaded. Now if a third one is coming, now that third one is getting two sources, the primary source as well as the one who is holding a piece of it. That is the one who downloaded that part. Even if it has not yet downloaded the entire file. So no need to wait until you are downloading the entire file. As soon as you are getting a piece, still you can serve it to other machines. Okay, so piece by piece download is happening here. So other nodes join the swarm and begin downloading the pieces from multiple peers, not just a original peer, because now the swarm just started, many machines added, everybody is downloading, and as soon as they are downloading, they are getting some part of the file also, and they become source of others. And when your new machine is coming for the same file, they can depend number of machines now. Together that downloading can be done in a very faster way. In fact, it is common for peers to leave the SWAM once they completed their download, although they are encouraged to stay longer. So normally we have tendency to leave the SWAM because why we have to spend our time. We got our file, right? But we are giving some kind of reward. Those things are provided, and by which we recommend every machine to stay longer. If the file remains in high demand, particular file means maybe a latest release of a movie trial or some music, whatever it is. If it is a highly demanded file with a stream of new peers replacing those who leave the SWAM, some of will be downloading, they will be leaving, and others will be coming, and for some time they will be serving also. Like that, new machines will join and leave the SWAM. The SWAM could remain active, say for indefinitely, until the file is not so popular. If not, sometimes the file may not be rare or it is not a popular one, then it could shrink. So after that download is over, he will be, because others are not joining the SWAM, right? So the SWAM keep on shrinking back to include only the original peer until new peers join the SWAM. So minimum that original peer which is having the resource. So independently, initially every peer will be having some set of resource, right? So independently you can assume each such a peer having a set of resources as a SWAM. Then that SWAM is getting more and more peers joined. So that is the idea. It's a virtual concept, okay? So peers in a BitTorrent SWAM download, so this is what we explained as a pictorial representation, where they SWAM download from other peers that may not have yet the complete file. So here peer A is having the complete file, but the B and D are having some part of it that download over. Now C is now taking information from B, D as well as from A. So this is the idea. And similarly, we can serve the part which is downloaded to D even. So like that, in all possible directions the communication is possible. So how the requests are routed to the peers that have a given piece to make means now we are looking at the routing part. First of all, a particular node want a resource, right? So it has to make a request. To make this request, a would-be downloader, the one who is trying to download the file, must first join the SWAM. Because from the SWAM only he can download the file, as well as once he downloads, he becomes a source of the information too by replicating it. It starts by downloading. Now we have a concept called a torrent file, .torrent file containing meta information about the file and the SWAM. So when it's want to download a file, it should have some meta information like where the original file, where are all the parts are available. Such meta informations are available in something called a torrent file. That will be downloading first by the one who is requesting the particular object. The torrent file, which may be easily replicated also, is typically downloaded from a web server and discovered by following links from the web pages. So that is maintained in a different way. So it what are all the contents in this torrent file? The target file size when you are requesting. So accordingly you have to wait until the full size is downloaded from different machines. So the piece size, so different piece size, the SHA-1 secure hash algorithm, hash value pre-computed from each piece just to ensure its authenticity, and the URL of something called a tracker. Now this tracker is the server. Torrent is just a meta file information only about this file size, piece size, everything, and the tracker is the one who is tracking all the nodes which are containing the pieces of the information. So the URL of the SWAM's tracker is also given. Tracker we will see in the next slide. Now how to join a SWAM? A tracker is a server that tracks a SWAM's current membership. So whenever node is joining, it has to give its IP address and other information to the tracker, and when a piece is getting downloaded, that information is also given to the tracker, so that later when someone else is contacting him, he will inform this piece is available here. So that kind of a concept. And as we are discussing here, it's a kind of a centralized concept. It's a particular server which is tracking the given SWAM network. But you know, the usual bottleneck issues, everything is there. So BitTorrent can be extended to eliminate this point of centralization even. with the attendant potential for bottleneck or failure. Okay, if it's a centralized concept, there are typical possibilities of bottleneck and failure, and that can be eliminated if the centralization is removed, and that extensions are also available. Now the would be downloader then joins the SWAM, becoming a peer, and you know who want to download, first he has to join the SWAM, and he also become a peer for others. And when he is a peer, he has to send his own information to the tracker, then only others can locate him. Okay, so by sending a message to the tracker giving its network address and the peer ID, that is generated randomly for itself, a random peer ID that is generated and the network address, with both those information it will be registering its presence to tracker. I am talking about the downloader. Okay, so that is applicable. Every machine is joining when it want to download a file only, and finally the downloader becomes the source of the file. That is the idea. So the message also contains a secure hash algorithm, such a one hash of the main part of the torrent file, which is used as a SWAM ID. Now how we are connecting with the peers? Let's call the new peer as P. The tracker replies to P with a partial list of peers giving their IDs and network addresses, and P establishes connections over TCP with some of these peers. So whenever particular machine peer want to download something, it is contacting the tracker, and the tracker is replying it with a partial list of the peers which are containing pieces of the information that is needed by it, giving their IDs and the network addresses. Now P can establish connection with them over TCP, with some of them or with everything, depending on what is his demand. So tracker will be giving information about all the peers containing pieces of it, maybe replicated ones also. So accordingly, now the peer P can choose to whom it want to connect and get the information piece by piece. So not that the P is directly connected to just a subset of the SWAM, because no need to connect to everyone in the SWAM. From where it is getting the information, to that only it has to be connected. So it will be connected to subset of the SWAM, although it may decide to contact additional peers or even request more peers from the tracker if the information is not fully available. Initially it will be connected to some subset, and later it will extend to others with the help of the tracker. To establish a BitTorrent connection with a particular peer after their TCP connection has been established, P send, suppose a P is trying to take information from another peer, and that time P has to send P's own peer ID and SWAM ID, and the peer replies with its peer ID and SWAM ID. Now both of them can share their information each other. That peer sharing is possible by communicating their peer ID and SWAM ID each other. Now if the SWAM ID does not match, or the reply peer ID is not what P is expecting, then the connection is aborted. That means because tracker is already giving you this information. So if there is a mismatch, means it is not a correct peer. That connection will be aborted at that point. Now connecting with the peers, updating the peer state information. The resulting BitTorrent connection is symmetric, like they can communicate each other in both directions, right? Each can download from the other one. Each end begins by sending the other one something called a bitmap, reporting which pieces it has. So it's something you can imagine like this, like what you learned in your OS classes and all. So the total file you are dividing into different pieces, and for each piece I am representing a particular, I am assigning a binary bit for it. If this particular peer is containing say piece 1, that bit will be 1. If it is not containing piece 1, bit will be 0. So like that, how many pieces is available with me according for a given file. Accordingly, I can generate a bitmap for it. Hope it is clear. A binary map, bitmap, and by looking at the bitmap, others can understand which are all the pieces available on that particular peer. So each peer knows the other's initial state. So there will be an initial state. Later, it has to be updated also. So whenever a downloader, say this downloader finishes downloading another piece, it sends message identifying that piece to each of its directly connected peers, so the peers can update their internal representation of these states. So initially we have a bitmap, and with that bitmap, for example, a node is getting a bitmap from another one, saying these are all the pieces I am having, and later once D finishes, it will be getting more pieces, right? Accordingly, it will update its bitmap information with its neighbors, and the neighbor will change that initial state to the new state according to what is communicated by D right now. So this is how a download request for a piece is routed to a peer that has the piece, because it means that each peer knows which directly connected peer have the piece. Okay, so whenever I am getting more and more pieces, accordingly I am updating my neighbor also. So together that bitmap is going to help me to locate which are all the pieces available in which are all the nodes. So if D needs a piece that none of its connection has, that is also possible. I need a piece and I am looking at the bitmap information given by all my neighbors, and this particular bit is set to 0. That means no one is having this specific piece. Then it can connect to more or different peers also. By getting information from the tracker, it will be approaching tracker, and tracker will tell you, and this piece is available to this one. Accordingly, it can take or occupy itself with other pieces in hopes that some of its connection will obtain a piece from their connection. Something like this. Instead of reaching the tracker, it is simply waiting that some of my neighbor is going to get this piece, because they are also downloading it, right? So like that, it can wait, or it can directly contact tracker if it is in emergency, and it can meet some other machine. Then that machine will be its new neighbor. Like that, it can start a new relation also. So that is the idea. The order in which the peer downloads the pieces is purely random. And so what we discussed so far is a tracker based approach. But we can think of a trackerless SWAM also, where we can avoid that bottleneck and single point of failure, those issues. The BitTorrent described so far utilizes a central tracker that constitutes a single point of failure for the SWAM. So per SWAM, this tracker concept is there and could potentially be a performance bottleneck. Also, providing a tracker can be a nuisance for someone who would like to make a file available via BitTorrent, because every time it has to inform, means I am ready to share a file, but I have to inform everything to that tracker, right? So it could be a nuisance also. So the newer versions of BitTorrent additionally support something called a trackerless SWAM that uses a distributed hash table based implementation. The BitTorrent client software that is trackerless capable implements not just a BitTorrent peer. In such an implementation, the client software is having something called a peer finder also. Now this peer finder is going to find the piece information, as there is no tracker that the peers uses to find the peers containing maybe parts of the file. The peer finders form their own overlay network using their own protocol over say UDP, user datagram protocol, because that is enough to implement the distributed hashing technique. So peer finder network includes the peer finders whose associated peers belong to different SWAMs also. That means if you are looking at a peer finder, it is not having information about a typical SWAM, just like the tracker concept, but instead it can span over multiple SWAMs also. So in other words, each SWAM forms a distinct network of the BitTorrent peer. If you are looking at a specific SWAM, it is related to downloading of a particular file or particular resource. So like that, they are independently forming in the total BitTorrent network. So now a peer finder network instead spans over multiple SWAMs also. So fairness by, so that is the idea of peer finder. With the help of that, you are avoiding the requirement of a central tracker. Fairness by choking bad peer, this is another one. That is an unusual aspect of the BitTorrent is that it deals with the issue of fairness or good network citizenship. I told you already, someone maybe simply downloading the file and they will leave the network. So that is not a fair thing, because as I am getting a particular file, I have the responsibility of helping others also. So that is what is meant by a good network relationship or fairness. Now the protocols often depend on the good behavior of the individual peers without being able to enforce it. but we can't enforce them also, but there should be some other way of ensuring a good behavior. The good behavior that BitTorrent depends on the peers is peers uploading pieces to other peers. Okay, so we are expecting good behavior. So since a typical BitTorrent user just wants to download the file as quickly as possible, there is a temptation to implement a peer that tries to download all the pieces while doing a little uploading. So whenever you are downloading, you should upload also, but that is a fair situation. But instead of uploading the file, you are simply downloading and you are trying to escape, and that is a bad peer. That is what a bad peer. So to discourage such bad behavior, the BitTorrent protocol includes mechanisms that allow peers to be rewarded if it is behaving good, or punish each of them. So how a misbehaving peer can be punished? If a peer is misbehaving by not nicely uploading to another peer, the second peer can choke the bad peer. It can decide to stop uploading to that bad peer, at least temporarily, and send it a message saying so. So that is a kind of punishment you can impose. And there is also a message type for telling, and after once the punishment is over, you can send a special message saying that it is unchoked. So the choking mechanism is also used by a peer to limit the number of its active BitTorrent connections. Means it's choked means that connection is not active, right? So to maintain good TCP performance, and that way also you can make use of the choking. I mean, if the connections are increasing enormously, then that is not going to give you a very good TCP performance. So you can choke certain connections when there is such bottleneck. So there are many possible choking algorithm, and devising a good one is an art. So with this I am concluding the detail about BitTorrent network. So here we have a concept of spam network tracker. Hope everything is clear for you. Thank you.